Hello friends, welcome to AriserTalent. We are studying biogeochemical cycles. Okay, in the biogeochemical cycle, what are biogeochemical cycles? Means cycles in which the chemicals continuously move from bio to geo, means from biotic components to abiotic components, and this cycle goes on continuously, and thus it is known as biogeochemical cycle. Okay, in the biogeochemical cycle, today we will discuss about the oxygen cycle. So today our topic of discussion is oxygen cycle. Okay, oxygen cycle. Okay, as we know, oxygen is very essential for us, and only 21% of the air is oxygen. Okay, so thus we can see only 21% of air is oxygen. Why is oxygen essential? Oxygen is essential for the respiration. Okay, it is essential for respiration, and beside the respiration it is also used in combustion, and it is also used in combustion and in the formation of oxides of nitrogen, and in the formation of oxides of nitrogen. Okay, beside it, oxygen is also needed for the decomposition, also used in decomposition. Decomposition of what? Decomposition of dead plants and animals, also used in decomposition of dead plants and animals. Okay, so decomposers like bacteria and fungi use the oxygen for the decomposition of dead plants and animals. Then they release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Okay, so let's discuss about the oxygen cycle. As we all know, oxygen is present in the atmosphere, thus it is known as atmospheric oxygen. Okay, and this atmospheric oxygen is taken by humans and animals for their respiration. Then it is taken by humans and animals for the process of respiration. Okay. When they do the process of respiration, then we know glucose breaks down in the cells and it release carbon dioxide and water. Thus we can say by the process of respiration, carbon dioxide and water is released into the atmosphere. Okay, thus this carbon dioxide and water is taken by plants for the process of photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? As we all know, the process of making foods by the plants by taking carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight. Okay. So thus we can say carbon dioxide and water is taken by plants for the process of photosynthesis. Then by the process of photosynthesis, again plant release carbon dioxide. Okay. Plant release oxygen into the atmosphere, and then they form carbonic matter or organic matter, that is glucose C6H12O6, which is organic matter. Organic matter. Okay, and this organic matter is again taken by humans and animals in the form of food, and then again they do the process of respiration and they release carbon dioxide and water into the atmosphere, and again it is taken by plants and they make the food and they prepare organic matter like glucose, and they release oxygen which again go into the atmosphere. Thus the oxygen thus the level of oxygen is maintained into the atmosphere. Okay, beside it, as I told you, oxygen is also used in the combustion of the hydrocarbons. Okay, then it is also used in the combustion mainly of the hydrocarbons, okay, and by the process of combustion they release carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide is again taken by the plants for the process of photosynthesis, and again they release oxygen and they make glucose. Okay, beside it, oxygen is also needed for the decomposition. Okay, as I told you that decomposers use this oxygen for the decomposition of that plants and animals, decomposition of that plants and animals. Okay, then again they release carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide is again taken by plants to make their food, and they make organic matter, glucose, and they release oxygen into the atmosphere. So this is the oxygen cycle, how the level of oxygen is maintained into the atmosphere. Let me tell you once again that once the atmospheric oxygen is taken by humans and animals for the process of respiration, then they release carbon dioxide and water. This carbon dioxide and water is taken by the plants, and they release, and they do the process of photosynthesis, and then they release oxygen which go directly into the atmosphere, and they form glucose, C6H12O6, means this is the organic matter which is again taken by the humans and animals in the form of their food. Again this oxygen is taken is used for the combustion, and by the process of combustion carbon dioxide is released. This is again taken by plants for the photosynthesis, and again they form the glucose and they release oxygen. Okay, then by the decomposers like bacteria and fungi, again oxygen is taken by the decomposers, and they do the decomposition of dead plants and animals. They release carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide is again taken by plants, and they release oxygen and they make glucose. Okay, so this is the complete oxygen cycle, how the level of oxygen is maintained into the atmosphere by the humans and plants. Okay, so product is glucose and oxygen. Now next we will discuss about carbon cycle. If we talk about carbon cycle, then we also know that carbon is very essential. Carbon cycle. Okay. It's also the basic component of the life cycle. How it is basic component? Generally, all the lipids and proteins are made up of carbon. Okay. So let me tell you about the carbon cycle. What happens? As we know, carbon is present into the atmosphere. Okay, this is atmospheric carbon dioxide. Once it is taken by plants, okay, then these plants use it for the photosynthesis. Okay, then when these plants are eaten by herbivores, these plants are eaten by herbivores, okay, then they take the carbon dioxide in them, and when they do the process of respiration, then they release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Okay, so by the process of respiration, we know in the process of respiration the glucose is break down in the cells and it release carbon dioxide, which is taken by the released in the atmosphere, and again it is taken by plants for the making food or do the process of photosynthesis. Again when these animals and plants get died, then or they are decomposed by the decomposers, then again carbon dioxide is released. So thus we can say by the process of respiration and decomposition, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere and again it is taken by the plants for the photosynthesis. Okay, one more thing, when this carbon dioxide get mixed with the water through the rain, then it forms carbonates, in water. Okay, when this carbon dioxide get mixed with the rain, it forms carbonates in water and again this carbonates form limestone. Okay, and once these plants get buried into the ground, maybe due to the earthquake or maybe from the other reason, then it forms coal. Okay, this is a fossil fuel, and when the animals get buried into the soil, okay, then they form petroleum. Okay, so they both are fossil fuels. When we burn these petroleum and coal, means when we burn this fossil fuel, they again release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and this carbon dioxide is again taken by the plants for the process of photosynthesis. Okay, now if, as we all know, carbon dioxide is found only in some amount in the atmosphere, but once the level of carbon dioxide increases, what are the harmful effect of it? Then the main harmful effect of it is global warming or greenhouse effect. Harmful effect of increased level of CO2. So what is the harmful effect of increased level of CO2? That is global warming. First of all, how the number of or how the amount of carbon dioxide increases in the atmosphere? By the human activities. As we use more of the fuels and we burn more of the fuels, then we release more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and as we know, it is already the greenhouse gas. Once the amount of greenhouse gas will increase, definitely it will affect the earth's atmosphere and it will cause global warming. So what is global warming? In the global warming, what happens? As we all know, sun's rays enter into the atmosphere or sun's rays falls on the earth's surface. Okay, sun's rays falls on the earth's surface means they enter into the atmosphere. Okay, so what happens in the atmosphere? It allows the solar radiations to enter, but it does not allow the heat to escape into the atmosphere. Okay, once the rays fall on the earth's surface and once they are reflected by the earth, okay, once these rays are reflected by the earth surface, okay, what happens? Some amount of heat is absorbed by this atmosphere to maintain the temperature into the atmosphere, but once the amount of carbon dioxide increases, then it does not allow the heat to escape into the space, and then it increases the amount of heat inside the atmosphere and that it increases the temperature of atmosphere, thus the global warming causes. Okay, thus it causes global warming. Okay, so what are the harmful effects of increased carbon dioxide? The most harmful effect which affect the earth's surface, which affect the human lives, that is global warming. So let's discuss about the nitrogen cycle. Means how the level of nitrogen is maintained in the atmosphere by the living organisms. As we all know, 78% of nitrogen is present into the atmosphere. Nitrogen cycle. Okay. We all know only 78% of nitrogen is present into the atmosphere. Okay, we cannot take this nitrogen directly, even the plants cannot take this nitrogen directly. Okay, so let's discuss about the nitrogen cycle. Atmospheric nitrogen. This is atmospheric nitrogen which plant cannot take directly. Okay, only the leguminous plants can take this atmospheric nitrogen. Okay, so this atmospheric nitrogen is taken by plants by the process of biological nitrogen fixation. This process is biological nitrogen fixation. Okay, and generally this is done by azobacter. It is done by azobacter. Okay, so when this nitrogen is taken by leguminous plants, then when these plants are eaten, by animals, okay, then these animals also get the nitrogen. And when these plants die, then they release ammonia into the soil. Okay, so thus we can say that ammonia is released into the soil by the plants when they die. Same happens with the animals. When they secrete the waste, then they release ammonia into the soil. Okay, and then what happens when this ammonia in the soil? We all know some microorganisms are found in the soil. Then this ammonia is converted into nitrites by the small microorganisms. It is converted into the nitrites. Okay, so it is converted, this ammonia is converted into the nitrites by the microorganisms which are present into the soil. Then again what happens? This nitrogen is again converted into the ammonia by the industrial nitrogen fixation. Thus we can say by the industrial nitrogen fixation. The nitrification of nitrogen is done. Then this process is nitrification. Okay, and what happens when there is thunder and lightning? Okay, and then the nitrogen get mixed with the rainwater, then it forms oxide of nitrate. Thus we can say it forms nitrites, and this process is known as atmospheric nitrogen fixation. Okay, generally this is done by thunder and lightning. Okay, again through the process of nitrification, this is converted into the nitrates. Okay, it converts into the nitrates. Okay, and what happens as the small microorganisms convert this ammonia into the nitrites, same microorganisms convert this nitrates into the nitrates. Okay, then what happens? This nitrate is taken by the plants. Okay, and thus the denitrification of nitrate is done in the atmosphere, and then again nitrogen is released by bacteria and fungi, or certain bacteria or fungi. So this process is known as denitrification. Okay, so this is the cycle how the level of nitrogen is maintained into the atmosphere, as the nitrogen of atmosphere is taken by leguminous plants by azobacter, and then when these plants are eaten by animals, then these animals release the waste into the soil, and then ammonia is released into the soil. Same happens with the plants. Then when the plants die, they release ammonia into the soil. Okay, and the microorganisms which are present in the soil, they convert this ammonia into the nitrites, and again the same small microorganisms convert this nitrite into the nitrate, and thus this nitrate is taken by plants. Okay, and what happens when the industries, but it is done by the industries, by this process is known as industrial nitrogen fixation, and when the ammonia is formed, then again through the nitrification it converts into the nitrates, and again this nitrate is taken by the plants. Okay, and by the denitrification which is done by the certain bacteria and fungi, here you can mention by certain bacteria and fungi. Okay, the denitrification of nitrate is done, and then again nitrogen is released into the atmosphere. Thus the nitrogen cycle completes. Thank you.